I want to welcome you all here. My name is Kevin Aguiar. I'm on the school committee in Fall River, and I was a longtime friend of Mr. Alves. It gives me great pleasure to be here today to speak on his behalf and to dedicate this playground in his memory. We're going to have a short speaking program. People are going to share some stories about the great man that Mr. Alves was. We have some signage here. We also have a bronze plaque that's here on the wall which summarizes all the great things that he did for the community at large, but especially for this neighborhood here. This was very special to Mr. Alves, as the speakers are going to be able to articulate. I want to introduce our principal. Jason Souza is the principal of the school here. He reports that the children are loving this playground, and it's a great opportunity for these children to each and every day that they come out here, they're having fun, and they're on Al Alves' playground, and I know that Mr. Alves would have loved to be here to see this, and this is a true testament to what Mr. Alves was all about. So thank you, sir, for being here, and thank you for your support.
Thank you.
The first speaker I'm going to call upon is our Mayor, Paul Coogan.
I remember a few years ago talking to Al's sister about this project. It's very important to the neighborhood having this playground here. It's very important to the school. And I want to thank everyone that had anything to do with this to help put it together. But that's only a reflection of Al Alves. He was a great community activist. He was a great restaurant owner, and he was a great city councilor. And here he was woven into our community by the number of people he helped through his many years of service to the city. And as Kevin was nice enough to point out, this playground is an accurate reflection of how he wanted to be remembered, doing something for the children of the Doran School at the bottom of Columbia Street in Fall River, Mass. I tip my hat to everybody that had something to do with it, and I'm very, very pleased to be here today to be a part of it. And thanks all you great people for coming out.
Our next speaker was the principal of this school, as well as now she's risen to the level of the superintendent of schools. She has a lot of interactions over the years with Mr. Alves, and she has firsthand experiences with the great work that he did for the community. So let's welcome Mrs. Maria Ponce, our superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Aguiar. It truly is an honor to be here because firsthand I can speak to the work that he did down here. Mr. Alves is an unsung hero in our community. Really did a lot of work for our kids. I was the principal here for many years, and he used to treat our pre-K kindergarten children every year, Christmas time, to a special lunch over at Tabacaria, and every child came home with a Christmas gift. Every child, free meal, and it was a special meal. And a special day for them. They looked forward to it. They did that every year. In addition to that, our fifth graders got to celebrate their end of the year up there also. He treated them to a special lunch. They got to celebrate their accomplishments throughout the year. So that's the kind of person that he was. He was dedicated to giving back to the community. He was dedicated to giving back to this neighborhood and the Portuguese heritage. So I am proud that we get a visible reminder, and his presence will be here forever because he deserves to be remembered forever. I'm grateful to Mr. Alves, to his family, to Kevin at Tabacaria, who continues to support us, and to all who get to benefit. Our kids actually get to benefit from his generosity. So thank you to Mr. Alves and to his family. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ponce. I'd like to call upon a longtime friend of Mr. Alves as well. We have City Councilor Linda Pereira to say a few words.
When I saw the sign, I wanted to cry. Al was one of the best city councilors I've ever served with. And talk about constituent service, his restaurant was an open door for anybody that had a problem. But Al always really cared about education. Unfortunately, I never met his dad, but I know his mom. I remember her. She was a caring, loving person, as is his sister Maria. It was a family that grew up helping other people. And she said to me one day, the more you give out of your right hand, the more you get back in your left. And I never forgot when she told me that. But he cared so much about education and did so much for the Portuguese community. And the one person he was so proud of was his nephew, who is now a doctor, a surgeon, I believe. So, and that he talks about that all the time. But after a council meeting, it was always great to go by the restaurant, have a steak sandwich, and complain about everything that happened at a council meeting, and we would laugh. He did a radio skit over at WHTB too, again, just focusing on education on children and our community. This is a beautiful, beautiful sign, and I can't be any prouder that this was done. So thank you to every single person who was involved in this. You're honoring a hero of Fall River. Thank you.
I just want to recognize the folks at the TA restaurant. Kevin and Fernando Santos took over the restaurant from Mr. Alves for many years. They worked there as a long time. They have carried on the traditions of helping not only this school, but other schools. And the things that Mr. Alves mentored them on was just do the right thing for the children, for the community, and you don't need to tell everybody what you're doing. Mr. Alves did so many things that we don't even know. I don't even know. His family doesn't even know. But things would come out as the years progressed that said, oh, Mr. Alves did that too. Oh, Mr. Alves did that too. And I think both Kevin and Fernando Santos at the TA restaurant are doing that same type of work. So his legacy is living on through the TA restaurant. Let's get a nice round of applause for them as well. Mr. Alves had a lot of good friends, and one of his friends is going to be the next person to speak, who has been with him for many, many years through both personal things, political events, and political campaigns and the like. And I'm sure he has a lot of great stories to share. We're going to call upon Mr. Lou Cabral to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, everyone. Again, just to reiterate what so many folks have already said, Al is just an incredible human being. As Linda mentioned a second ago, just a great hero to our community, and his legacy will continue. It will continue for forever. This is just a testament of the great things that he planted the seeds for, and now we are seeing this playground and so many other things. Kevin just mentioned things that we don't even know about. We don't. It surprised me, his generosity, his caring for this community, his love for this country. It's just an amazing, amazing human being, and this is a great honor. And I appreciate having the opportunity to just say a few words. And I thank one of my best friends in life. So thank you again for having me here and for honoring Al, a wonderful, wonderful human being. Thank you.
Thank you. This project didn't just happen overnight, so we had to have a lot of support from the administration and the school department. So I want to recognize several other individuals that are here to pay their respects to us and thank them for their contributions to this project. We have the new superintendent-elect, Dr. Tracy Curley. Let's get a round of applause for her. We have our assistant superintendent, Amy Bronhard. And a person who was very influential in getting this project off the ground and into fruition and coming to reality was our Chief Operating Officer, Ken Pacheco. Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. At this time, I'm going to call upon Al's sister, Maria Furman Duffy, to come up and say a few words. And let's get a nice round of applause for Ms. Duffy.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to try not to cry, but if I do, give me a moment. And I want to thank so much from the bottom of my heart for all of you being here to honor Al today. And I want to especially thank the administration, the school committee, and all those other friends who have worked hard to make this a reality today. Al would be smiling in heaven at the thought of being honored like this, because one of the things he loved the most were the kids. He just loved doing things for the kids and always had a twinkle in his eye and a fun attitude about everything he did. It's been 5 years since he passed, and I continue to think that he's with us in spirit and in our hearts. His friends were the most important thing to him. I often try to get Al to move to Providence or some other place where he could get a bigger home and He said, never, never leaving Fall River. This was his home. He loved driving down the street and knowing everybody and waving to everybody and going, no matter where he went, somebody knew him. Even in the Azores, when we would be walking down the street, oh, Mr. Rouse, what are you doing here? So whether it's here or in the Azores, he was pretty well known and loved. And today we honor his legacy with this incredibly special plaque. I was expecting this little thing, and there it is, you know, a really well done plaque. And I will forever be grateful that you all took the time and made the effort to remember him. He worked to promote Azorean pride. That was Al. Al was Azorean through and through, Portuguese second, as you probably all know. He continued, he really worked to promote the traditions, the faith, the history of his beloved San Miguel, much the same as all of you here who are of Azorean descent. His contributions had a very wide range, and he made his mark and a difference in the many civic and business organizations he helped to start and the many events he helped to organize. You name it, whatever was going on, he volunteered, or he certainly also called his sister to contribute and help him, which I did happily. He loved his politics, as you all know. We may not always agree with his politics, but it was fun to listen to him, and it was challenging, and we respected his opinions, even though we may not agree. In one way or another, he loved City Hall and was always involved in the affairs of the city. He belonged to this town by choice. It was Portuguese by birth, American by choice, and living in Fall River by choice. He loved his Portuguese roots, his radio program with Frank that, you know, I couldn't get him to come to Florida and stay a month because he would be missing the radio program, so he'd only come for a few days. He loved volunteering, he loved his church and the food pantry, and of course, most of all, he loved the TA restaurant. And the Doran School and the kids, which were a big part of his volunteer work. And his proudest achievement was the TA restaurant, and we were very fortunate that he was able to sell it to Mr. Fernandez and Kevin Santos, and they were his family. He just felt at home after he sold it. It still felt like his place, and he just went there every day. Couldn't get rid of the guy. And that forever, every time I walk in there, I feel his spirit, and he's just there. So that's his greatest legacy and his proudest achievement. It's still going strong, and I hope that you all enjoy it. And in closing, I just want to say that I'm incredibly proud of this man that I get to call brother. So, who was Al? Al was a very loyal, incredibly loyal friend. He was very caring. He was very generous. He was very smart, and he was incredibly positive. Everything was fine, fine, fine. Nothing is ever wrong. It's fine, fine. Everything was positive. He was very resilient. He was very strong, and he was full of courage till the day he died. And you got to call him friend for life. You have many stories and memories of Al, as we all do, no doubt. He made you laugh. He made you cry. Hopefully not too much, but he made you laugh. He made you smile. He made you cry, and he challenged you, I'm sure, in many different ways. We're all blessed to have known Al, and may his memories live on in our hearts. May he rest in peace, and thank you all for coming and for everything you've done to make this possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Duffy, for the words of, I would say, encouragement. Because as you were speaking, I kept saying to myself, what was Al Alves' thing? You talked about the politics, and sometimes I agreed with him, and sometimes I didn't. And at the TA restaurant, there's a lot of politics to get to talk both ways. But one thing that kept sticking in my head in Mr. Alves' accent was no matter what was happening, he would always just tell me, just do the right thing. Just do the right thing. Whether you were a Democrat, whether you were an independent or a Republican, Mr. Alves would tell me in politics, just do the right thing. And I can tell you from my working here today as a school committee member every single day. I just say I want to do the right thing. And those are the type of things that he brought to other people. He did those same things to people at the TA, but Mr. Alves' influence on politics and people and friendships and loyalty is second to none as far as I'm concerned. So I'm totally overjoyed with the turnout here today, making sure that we honor his legacy. I just want to make sure we thank the Voice of the Immigrant. Frank Baptista was here to do it live. I want to thank the other media outlets that were here. Our Fall River Government TV was going to be taping this. We'll be able to see the various footage of this. But as we conclude, I want to make sure that we're going to take a few photos with some children before we go. Then we're going to take some photos with the adults that we can plan. But Mrs. Furman Duffy has offered to have all the adults go back to the TA restaurant, if you're able to share continued stories, and they're going to provide a lunch for you at the TA restaurant if anyone can make it. We thank you so much for that. And when Mrs. Furman Duffy said that Mr. Alves always asked his sister, and she was always a supporter, I can attest to that, because many a time Mr. Alves said, I'll support it, but I know my sister will support it as well. And that is something that the whole community benefits from, and we continue to benefit from. So thank you very much to you and your husband for being here. We do very much appreciate it. And thank you all. We're going to be taking some photos with the children, and we'll try to organize. But God bless everyone, and God bless Mr. Alves.